disregard of the law that is frightening, because actually it's happening to so many other people who are less known. I have met people who have lost their loved ones for 5, 6 years. They don't even know where they are. They were abducted in these drones. I met people whose loved ones are in jail, on remand. Actually, they have not even been brought to court for 3, 4, 5 years. It's total lawlessness, disregard of the law, and repression, oppression.
What has this particular case taught you as a citizen of Uganda that, because I know he's been in court so many times, he's been facing the wrath of the state, but has this particular case from November 2024 taught you anything different
No,
as
not,
someone close to him?
no, it's very much the same story. Perhaps the only new element is that this abuse of rights, this oppression of the opposition people using a military court, that it now has support from a neighboring state and can be committed across borders. But otherwise, this kind of treatment has been going on for a long time. I have been brought before a court and falsely accused of illegal possession of guns. I had to fight the trial for years. I have been taken to court for sedition. Besigye's cases are just endless. Treason many times, not once, before military courts. So this has been the weapon President Museveni uses to suppress the opposition. It's not new. What's new is that there's an element of finding people across the border and getting cooperation to carry out his repression.
You've been consistent in calling out President Museveni and the CDF, his son,
Yes.
General Moses Kainerugaba. Online, I see your tweets. Apart from the tweets that the CDF put out on Dr. Besigye, how do you know they are personally involved? What do you know that we don't?
Well, there is no question that the case against Dr. Kizza Besigye is an allegation that he was trying to kill President Museveni. Exactly how, we don't know. We are waiting to hear. And there is no question that he is leading this very personally. He's come out in the press, he's written letters explaining why Kizza Besigye has to be in the military court, why he must not get bail. He has even called him a criminal before he's even tried.
He's called him a mistake maker.
Exactly, that's another term he has used. And then his son just rants all the time. He seems like he's baying for his blood, keeps talking about him as already convicted, plans days when he will murder him, plans venues where he will murder him. And don't forget, he is the head of the army, and the army court-martial falls under him. So he literally has been giving orders to his court-martial on finding him guilty and convicting him. So it was really, really an odd situation where the accuser is President Museveni, the court is President Museveni, the prosecutor is a soldier is under President Museveni, and they will decide whether he's guilty or not, and determine even the sentence. So it's a justice system that's really just unjust. Thank God the court, Supreme Court, nullified it.
If you say President Yoweri Museveni is the court, and you're saying thankfully the Supreme Court nullified it, it could have gone otherwise. If indeed he has control over this institution called the judiciary, the Supreme Court ruling could have gone other ways.
Absolutely.
So it is only good when the Supreme Court rules in your favor?
No. What we have been arguing, what Dr. Besigye has been arguing, is that if you have a case, first you were saying, I am innocent. I've never tried to kill you. But if you think I have a case, take me to a court that is competent to try me. And that's a civilian court. It has the protections, it has the independence, it has the right skills of people to try such a capital offense. I'm ready. I can go and face that. But you can't put me in a court which you, my accuser, is also the judge. Because the panel belongs to you. You are the judge. You tell them what to do. They are not lawyers. They do not know the law. They cannot argue the law here. So I cannot accept, and the Constitution does not allow them to try such offenses. It's illegal. So he refuses to be there, and it is his act of refusal, his insistence on not pleading under it that brought the pressure to bear on the Supreme Court to get off, sorry to say, to get up and make the ruling, because he had been sitting on it for more than 4 years. So in that regard, he helped to get a ruling that not only saves his life, because I believe they would have convicted him just like that. It saves his life, but it actually is a ruling that has saved so many, many soldiers from injustices. Actually, Besigye has liberated members of our UPDF, our sons and daughters there. Because from what I understand, so many were being dragged before the court-martial for flimsy cases. I don't agree with my boss. They dump you there. The court decides you are guilty. They lock you up for 1 year. Within 1 year, you come out and you are dismissed with disgrace. And you lose your pension and everything. So soldiers were living in fear of this court-martial, because it could be used for any silly little reason to put you out of your career. So now we've given them freedom.
Let's take a look at what has been happening in the public court. The audios that were leaked, I don't know by who, allegedly be by Dr. Besigye. Is this evidence that serious, that why couldn't they wait for Dr. Besigye to return so they could have him arrested formally in Uganda? Was it that serious that they had to arrest him from a neighboring country? What do you know about that?
You know, that is a question you need to ask them, because there was no doubt whatsoever that Dr. Kizza Besigye was returning. He took a ticket to Nairobi and back. He packed a light case, and he went to Nairobi for 2 or 3 days. They could have waited for him, so don't ask me why they didn't do that. But it would seem to me that they were interested in framing him receiving weapons, because that was part of their first case to the court-martial, that he was with weapons. Now I see that in the revised case before the civilian court, they've removed the weapons. Clearly, I think they've realized that that's not going to stick. That lie, the real court is going to throw it out, so they've dropped it. You see how framed it is? I mean, if you've caught someone, you've caught someone. How come now you start dropping off some things?
But what were they trying to prevent something?
When?
The arrest in Kenya, the abduction in Kenya. Were they trying to prevent something that we do not know?
Prevent what? Something from happening?
Yes.
Was he going to kill Museveni in Kenya? I mean, but I just can't imagine what it is. What was he going to do? They had some guns they were putting there, pretending to give them to him. he was right in the middle of a sentence of saying to them, I don't think I need these, and then they arrested them. What?
So there were actually guns involved in that room.
There were 2 guns, I have said it before. There were 2 guns, they were old guns according to Besigye when he looked at them, and he said to them, but what are these for? I don't need them. And as he was saying that, a knock came on the door saying, you're under arrest. And that was it. And the guy who was presenting the guns went and opened for the people who said, you are under arrest, Kenya police, and he walked out and disappeared.
Was this guy a Ugandan? Was he a Kenyan or was he a foreigner?
I will give you that story in full another time. But he was, let me put it to you, a non-Ugandan, and he walked out and disappeared. Now here's the person who has come to frame you. He brought some guns, and then he brings in police, and he disappears. Total framing.
The initial charges, like you say, involved being in possession of firearms. The formal charges, at least in the civilian court, do not include that, only has treason. Why do you think so? What was the intention here?
It is very clear to me that they realized that that kind of a charge of planting a weapon on him was not going to stand in a civilian court where the burden of proof is high, where you really test, you make your arguments, not in the army court where they just decide you're guilty and they convict you. It was there for the army court to convict him on because they really are not a proper court. But in the proper court, it was never going to stand, so they've had to drop it. Just proves to you that this is a trumped-up charge. These are trumped-up charges. It's not the first time. It's happened before, and they were dismissed in a proper court.
The leaked audios, does that person sound like your husband?
You know, I refuse to comment on those audios for the simple reason that it is just despicable and desperate and unjust for those who have a case against Besigye to come and keep bringing an audio of 1 minute, another one of another minute, and putting it there and saying, this is Besigye's voice, he's doing this and that, and expecting us to respond. We will not respond. For the simple reason is that, put your case there, let's hear what it is. I've been here with you now for the last at least 5-6 minutes. If you take out 1 minute of what I have said, it can mean something different from what I've said in the last 10 minutes. What am I supposed to say about that? Bring it all on. Bring it in the court, let's examine it, and we will answer. I'm not commenting on those little audios. My comment is that you are desperate to frame an innocent man. If you have a case, it should be watertight. You should be too ready to present it all in court. The whole context, the whole conversation, who he was talking to, what the other one was saying, and we get it. I'm not going to comment on that.
By the state choosing to play this case in the public court,
Yeah.
Do you think with the leaked audios it has achieved its intention?
Not at all. First of all, I mean, really it's a rogue regime. I heard Mwenda on television say that he is here, that they are trying him in the court of public opinion. Then, of course, they are trying him in the legal courts. If you are trying someone in the legal courts, actually there's even a law that prohibits you from taking the case to the court of public opinion, sub judice. That if something is there in the court, the legal court, you're not supposed to go and argue it publicly because you may cause bias. Now for them, that does not matter. And then you ask yourself, if you are so sure that a law has been broken, a serious law like treason, why would you come and bring the case in the public? Why don't you prove it there and get the punishment? No, they know it won't hold, so they got here to destroy him publicly. I'll tell you something. This way of dealing with the opposition isn't new. It even has a name. They call it pretext operations. Pretext operations are done in this security world. They are very much about studying an opposition leader and coming under false pretenses and framing them, and then having them either prosecuted and locked up forever or killed, or they are damaged in the public eye that they never recover again. So this is a pretext operation. I know enough about it. I've researched it, and at an appropriate time, I will tell Ugandans what they did. You will be surprised to find out, maybe not even surprised, that this was a very clear plan, paid a lot of money for, coming from the president to someone to incriminate Dr. Kizza Besigye.
What for? What for? Is there anything personal between the president and your husband?
I wouldn't call it personal. I would say that it's a contestation for power.
If it's for power, I mean, he has declared he's not going to run in any election. He is not even formally registered the political party, PFF.
I don't know, but politicians tend to change their minds about elections and so on. I'm not sure about Besigye's plans, but he remains a political leader that can challenge President Museveni. He's old, he's past 80. He seems to be getting slower and slower and thinking about what will happen after him. It also seems that he's trying to make way for his son. The promotions he's put him through, the responsibility he's given him.
And that Dr. Besigye could be a barrier to that plan?
It could be.
Of all people?
I suspect that he sees Dr. Besigye as a rallying point if ever there was a vacuum and he is not a president anymore. I think it is easily possible that the opposition and even many elements in his own party could rally around Dr. Kizza Besigye. After all, he's been the most consistent critical voice of President Museveni in the last 25 years. He's trusted, he's known as a quantity, and he has proven that he stands for something and won't depart from it. So I think that he does represent the most credible opposition against President Museveni, and that makes him a target.
Do you think with your tweets lately, you could rattle your husband further because you could be playing in the state's game?
I didn't understand what you've said, Canary. Say it again.
You've been tweeting a lot lately, and you are consistent on the message. Dr. Besigye is innocent. Dr. Besigye is innocent. Do you think that you could maybe damage him further with your utterances lately online?
Damage Dr. Besigye?
Yes.
How would I damage him when I'm making a case for his innocence?
Why would you go online? Why wouldn't you wait for everything else to happen in the civilian court and evidence is produced and then you see how the trial goes?
No, let me tell you, the first thing that I have been speaking of, and first of all, I'm here for him as my partner, as my family. I'm here to defend him, to get justice, right? And the first thing was to say, no, it's not justice to try a civilian in a military court. So a lot of what I was saying was in opposition to him being tried in a military court. Now, he has been brought to a civilian court, and welcome. Yesterday was a day when we felt a lot of relief, and we felt that we had won round one. which is to get him out of that military court. Since he's now under civilian court, my issue is, okay, give him bail so that he can come home and fight this case from home, because he's not well. He had to go on a hunger strike. And he has never been a flight risk. Everything they've thrown at him, he stayed here and fought them. So he can come home, be looked after well, and fight his case. These are the things I'm fighting for, justice for him. I'm not interested in the political aspects of this. I'm not a spokesperson for any party here.
So should he be convicted in the civilian court, will you take that in? Will you accept the ruling of the court?
I don't expect a conviction of an innocent man. As I told you, I have a good information about this plot. It's a pretext operation. Pretext operations are illegal. You don't do such a thing and you get away with it. So I expect him to be released. And if by any chance there is a judge who's going to be unfair to him and make a crazy ruling, we will appeal. We will appeal.
You've already said that President Yoweri Museveni is caught. Do you expect a fair and justice system for your husband?
President Museveni interferes a lot with the courts, but the courts have over time shown that they can resist him and do their job and deliver justice. I'm hoping for that. But it's also true that some parts of the court system don't work right because they're so afraid of him and do work for him. Just recently, as we were, Besigye was before the court-martial, he made big changes in the judiciary. He moved some people to the Court of Appeal and others to the High Court. And we could see that in that movement, he's positioning judges who are very biased for him into key positions. So, yes, the court is itself not 100% neutral and independent of him, but there are many judges there who, in spite of all that pressure from him, deliver for justice. We hope we'll get such a judge.
The events in Nairobi, you talk about the money that was in the bag. You call it fake. How were you able to verify that?
I didn't say that. I said I don't know what it is.
On a Kenyan television program, you called it that it was fake money.
No, I said it could be. I didn't know. I didn't say what it was or it is. I don't know. I don't know.
What was the intention around this money? What?
I have no idea.
How does it play in the bigger picture?
I don't know. I don't know, because what I told you there is what I picked from his observations. But I don't know what the purpose was. We are waiting. Let's wait and see. We're waiting to see how they'll bring it in court, because definitely he didn't come in the room with it. He came in with just his bare hands. So now he finds some things in the room. Now they've started putting them off the charge sheet. It's their stuff. It's not his stuff.
At what point did you know that he was missing?
I knew he was missing on a Monday night, sometime like that. He had been abducted on a Saturday. I was in Malawi. I got back home on Monday morning. Monday morning I got back home and I found a message that he was missing. So I started looking for him. And because he was last seen in Kenya, I asked in Kenya, and someone very high in the security system told me that, you know, this could be a Ugandan operation. He dropped a hint. So then I started to look on the Ugandan side. And I talked to senior officials from the army, and they confirmed to me that they had him, that he would be in the court the next day.
You talked to senior officials in the Ugandan army?
Right, yeah.
Officially and unofficially?
Unofficial, I mean, I know their numbers, I can call them.
Did you try to get in touch with the Kenyan government officially or unofficially to
Even Kenyan
know their role?
government, I tried, I
You
approached
do
them.
some work on the continent. Did you call President Ruto on that?
No, no, no. I called somebody quite senior, but not President Ruto.
Okay. Let's take a break. When we return, Dr. Besigye's hunger strike, President Museveni calls it blackmail. How much more do we know in that regard? And now the charges are in a civilian court. Dr. Besigye has been formally charged. What is that going to look like? And of how much relief is the family of Dr. Besigye feeling now that he's in a civilian court? Big Talk returns shortly. Besigye. Dr. Kizza Besigye went on a hunger strike that lasted 8 days. He was protesting the fact that he's a civilian being tried in a military court, but also that the Supreme Court had ruled that civilians should not be tried in a military court, but he had been detained in jail and illegally. There was no action. From when the case was transferred to the civilian court, he ended his hunger strike.
Court or to free him. And he said to me, well, I'm going to do something of my own here. I didn't ask him what, but he said he's going to do something of his own, and he asked me to call a lawyer to see him at the weekend. So I invited Prosi, one of the lawyers, and I asked Besigye to give her permission to visit him at the weekend. And then on Monday, I learned that he had gone on hunger strike. I was not surprised.
What does that say about his character?
He's a very determined person, and he's also a person who doesn't count the cost on himself. He is always ready to put in all to achieve what he sees as a good purpose. So I was not surprised, and I was just worried because I also know the other side, that they probably would want him to starve and die. They're insensitive. So I knew this is going to be a tough game with one side that doesn't care about him being alive, and with him willing to just die.
According to the president, this was blackmail and he was playing a sympathy card.
Why am I not surprised? I think President Museveni is a man who lacks empathy, generally, and who's very, very obsessed with power and doesn't take kindly to anyone who wants to challenge him for power. This is what I notice about him.
You say he lacks empathy, but he sent one, according to your tweets, he sent one of his ministers to urge your husband to end the hunger strike.
You know, we didn't see that as a mission in good faith. First of all, that man, Mr. Byanyima, imposed himself. He was not invited. He did not request permission to see him. That itself was so wrong. Because remember, Besigye was there as a captive. He had been abducted. He was not arrested in a proper way. So for his abductors to come and see him in prison without his permission was an imposition. Then Besigye protested by not even dignifying him with a greeting. He just looked at him, he ranted, and then left. And then when he left, he lies. He goes to the media and says, I had a conversation. I'm not going to divulge my private conversation with Dr. Besigye. There was none. And then he said, he is well. I have seen him. He did not examine him. Someone whose voice you've not even heard, someone lying down on a bed, how do you decide how well they are? So he was lying. He was sent there for the purpose of managing a story for their own side. It was despicable.
What was, in your conversations with Dr. Besigye, what was the purpose of the hunger strike?
The hunger strike was his only way, the only means he had to protest his illegal detention. He was saying, I am a human being, a Ugandan with rights. As a citizen of Uganda, I should be here held by some order. There is no order for me being here. I'm being stored here as a captive of President Museveni and his son, the army chief. There's no law that puts me here. So he was protesting that and saying, I will not sit here like a duck for slaughter and just die here. I will go on strike to protest what they are doing to me. That's it. Many times when somebody is in prison, that's the only weapon they have, their body. So you put your body on the line.
Your husband has never received justice in a civilian court, and you also do not expect justice this time around. You say if anything goes otherwise, you will not be surprised. So then, why did he end the hunger strike? You say he should be given bail. Shouldn't he be protesting?
Kizza Besigye has received justice from civilian courts. I don't know where you get the fact that he has never. He has. Let me remind you, in 2005, when he came back from exile, he was arrested, and these same charges were thrown at him. Terrorism, treason, illegal possession of guns, and rape. And he was taken to the court-martial. We fought off the court-martial. We argued, and he was removed from the court-martial and brought to the civilian courts. And Justice Katutsi tried the first case of rape and threw it out and disgraced them, really embarrassed them for all the manipulation, the lies, the under oath, and all the other charges were dismissed. So he has received justice.
But you know how long that took? You know the hurdles that you had to go through for the case to eventually be for him to be free. That's the injustice I'm talking about.
So what is your question?
My question is, from November 2024, when he was abducted in Kenya, up to date, you've faced hurdles from the military court. Even granting Martha Karua senior counsel a practicing certificate was also another hurdle. All these things that you've had to go through, many would look at those as injustices.
Yeah.
So my question is, do you expect anything less?
Well, we've struggled with a system where nothing works according to the rule. President Museveni manipulates all the systems, but it hasn't stopped us over the years to test them. And as I've said, there are many Ugandans in different roles, in different parts of the state, of the government, who want to do the right thing. So we have to, that's all we have. We've got our constitution, we've got our laws, we've got our institutions. We have to go there to seek our protection. Otherwise, for President Museveni, he has turned himself into the law. He would like that if he doesn't want you, once you're dead, you are killed, and that's the law. I mean, he operates as if he is the law himself. But we go to the law, that's all we have, and we test the law. And from time to time, we've found there are some judges who uphold the law. This is all we have. And this is what we are here for, to defend our constitution, defend the rule of law for everybody. Remember this is not just a personal issue for Kizza Besigye. No, that's why I went to those NOP prayers. There were prayers for all political prisoners. There I found a list of, I think, more than 30 people who have been missing for up to 6 years. Some lost forever, some sitting in prisons, not tried. 6 years you have not been tried. You are before a court-martial. So this is about an abuse of power by a leader who's become more and more autocratic. And we are here to push against that, test the law, get the courts to work for people. That's what we are about.
That means your diplomatic gloves are off?
No, they're not off. Nothing in my job tells me I must not fight for my husband. I'm not here for a political party. I've not attended any meeting of a party. I don't propagate for a party, nothing. But it's my husband. He's under capital offenses. I must defend him.
Have you been cautioned by your bosses lately at the UN
No.
about your tweets lately?
I've not done anything wrong.
I'm not saying you did anything wrong.
Why would I be cautioned then? Caution is when you do something wrong. I've not done anything wrong. You see, you seem to think that the United Nations does stand for human rights. It does. You must have heard some of my bosses also calling for the release of Dr. Kizza Besigye. We stand for rights. We stand for democratic governance. And if my husband is a victim, I fight for him.
Are civilian courts any better
Then,
than the military courts?
100%. They are, first of all, they are competent to try these capital offenses. Why do I say competent? The system is built in such a way that those judges are allowed to have a situation of independence. Because these are very serious charges that can send you to death or to life imprisonment. These judges have a level of independence so that they are able to make the judgments without any bias. That is one. Two, they are trained, they are skilled. Each of them has gone through a very thorough training of becoming a lawyer and then becoming an advocate of the courts of Uganda. That sets them there. And then, of course, they have the way they are arranged. If you don't deliver justice, then you can appeal and all of that. This military court is set up as a court for disciplining soldiers. You have been malingering, or you've run out, coward, you run away from the front, or something like that. Those cases are what they should handle. And it's a panel of soldiers who understand the Army Code and can make judgment about you are misbehaving or you are not fulfilling your responsibility. But they are not set up to try these cases of people with such capital offenses, because at that point you need to have the independence they don't have. They are regular soldiers serving under a structure in the army that goes up to Muhoozi, the army commander, and President Museveni, the chief, the overall chief of the army.
So you're saying the civilian courts have a measure of accountability?
You could say, even these...
But they're appointed, the judges are appointed by the president. What's the difference?
Yeah, they're appointed by the president. Actually, they are confirmed. There is a Judicial Service Commission that also plays a role in the appointment of judges. But once they are appointed, they enjoy a level of independence that allows them to make these difficult decisions, often of life and death, over people. They have that independence, and then they have the skill to do the job. They know the precedents. You will hear them talking about the precedent in the UK, the precedent in Papua New Guinea. They have read the laws of the world, and they can build a case, read through it, and understand where the law is. These guys on this panel are just soldiers. Some of them never interacted with the law. They are not supposed to be handling criminal cases. They're supposed to handle breaches of the Army Code.
Right.
And that they can do. It's okay, they can do that. But they've been handling criminal cases, and they've been locking up even their own soldiers on criminal cases, which is wrong. It is completely wrong. Even a soldier who commits a crime should go to the civilian court.
The president says we are approaching this wrongly, that we should be asking the fundamental question, what did Besigye do? How much do you know about that?
This is the thing, that President Museveni is twisting the law and trying to destroy his opponent, Dr. Kizza Besigye, in the public. And this is very cynical, because how they say that he who alleges must prove. He's the one who has said, Besigye wants to kill me. How is Besigye going to defend himself? I want to defend myself in the public without knowing what he's being accused of. Up to this point, we don't know what case they have against him. Somebody brings an audio of 1 minute. So what am I supposed to say about an audio of 1 minute? Then another time drops an audio, another one of 2 minutes. That's not the case. Bring your case, what's the story here?
Does your husband discuss his political strategy with you?
No, we don't talk his political strategy. But to finish your question, the case has to be presented to court for Besigye to answer, and that's what he's been waiting for. That's what he's been asking for. Bring a case before a court that's competent, and I will answer. But don't hold me here illegally with no case. Don't drag me to a military court where I should not be. Bring me before a military. And then they say, but why is he not defending himself? Defend himself to who? To the rant of Mwenda on TV. Somebody screams and says, you are a cold-blooded murderer. Then what are you supposed to do? To come before him and say, no, I am not. Is that a defense? So everything they are doing is propaganda against him. It is wrong to go out there and start accusing of someone to be a killer, to be all this. It is slander. If we had time, we would be suing them for slander. But we don't even have time. We just want to spend our time defending the case in the court, and we are waiting for it.
This issue of Andrew Mwenda coming on national TV and saying and calling your husband a murderer, and accusing him of his intentions of wanting to kill the president. Where do you think all this is coming from?
Yeah, he even said that if it were him in President Museveni's shoes, that he would have killed Besigye in Kenya. I just found that, I mean, let me just say, in my life, I've never heard anybody go on public radio or TV and say that they would kill another person. It seems to carry a lot of, I mean, now if Besigye dies, should we assume it is Mwenda who has killed him or what? Does he express the wish to kill him? But leave that aside. These are people behaving with total impunity. It's gone so far that the sense of what's right and wrong is not there. Whatever they do is right. We will ignore this for the time being, but we'll keep it. One day there may be a moment to hold him accountable for doing that because you see, the effect of something like that can be that a zealot, an overzealous person, might meet Besigye on the street and stab him because he has had a leader on TV saying, if it was me, I would have killed him. It's dangerous. It is incitement. It's an incitement to kill. And yeah, we know that it has sometimes led to crimes.
So this harmful narrative, like you're describing it, the country seems to be divided. It seems to be two narratives. There's one that Dr. Besigye had intentions to kill the president, and they have even already publicly convicted him, even with the leaked audios. Then there's this other extreme saying, free Dr. Kizza Besigye because he's innocent. You have publicly already acquitted him. Do you think by creating these two extremes, we're losing the point?
There should have been no need to try Kizza Besigye in the public. Normally that doesn't happen. Normally what happens, even if it is a very high profile case, the courts insist that if a matter is before them, they call it sub judice, you're not allowed to discuss it elsewhere. And that has generally been respected in Uganda, that you don't go in the media and start analyzing a case that's before the court. We've always respected that. But as I said, these people don't respect any rules. They decided that they want to put him out there because they themselves know that in the court they are going to lose. But they hope they will have destroyed him through this public discussion, accusing him, slandering him. In the television, you cannot answer them. They are accusing you. So they want that. But I suspect that it might backfire. It will backfire because people have a strong sense of justice. They keep saying, but if he has done something wrong, why are you not in court? Why are you bringing it here? Bring it in the court. So I think that their propaganda is going to backfire. I sense it. In the court, you could say that the judges may be influenced by the discussion in the media. I think not. They know how to dissect all the issues according to the law. So I'm not worried about their propaganda. But of course we will reply. Our mouths are not sealed. And I am going to tell them, let me tell you, I've got stuff I'm going to bring out. Because...
Is that a threat? What do you mean you've got stuff you're going to
no,
bring out?
it's not a threat. It is an alert that if the case is that Besigye was trying to kill President Museveni, I will come out here and show how President Museveni attempted to kill Dr. Kizza Besigye. I have information. I'll bring it. Because now, because they are using the public to put out their lies, I will put out my facts.
Is this over the years or lately during this case?
Over the years, I will bring our activists who were killed in safe houses by President Museveni's operatives. We know them, we buried them. I'll put them on the table, and then we will see who's been killing who. Besigye has never killed anyone, directly or indirectly, ever. He's not a killer. Never killed anyone, never tried to kill anyone. But they have been killing people. Right now, I met like 10 people at Chagulanyi's headquarters whose people were lost 6 years ago. In my view, those are dead. I think they are dead. They are family, they can't give up. But if you've lost somebody for 5, 6 years in this country, chances of getting them are low.
This conversation is, of course, live on NBS television and on Next Radio 106.1. And, of course, if you're on the go, of course, we are on Afro Mobile. And you can catch these and other shows on Afro Mobile. Let's continue the conversation with Winnie Byanyima. I don't know whether they're still friends or not. General David Sejusa, statements on X, formerly Twitter, said the approach is wrong. And you should know that this is politics 101. Do you think that you should maybe approach this politically? What do you have to say about General Sejusa's statements?
I've not understood. What was he saying?
He was saying that the appeals online to free Dr. Kizza Besigye that might not get justice, even if he goes to the civilian court, might not get justice, that this is politics. The state is playing politics.
So what was he saying?
So that the people online have created divisions, that you're either for us or with us. You cannot say anything unless you're saying free Dr. Kizza Besigye, that your approach is wrong.
Whose approach?
The approach of the people online demanding for Dr. Kizza Besigye's freedom.
So what approach does he want?
So I'll read to you the statement that he said. When you look at his Twitter, he said, I'll just get this up. That the Besigye political quagmire all getting entangled like a mare's nest. When there were celebrations after Supreme Court judgment, I warned that the battle was far from over. I warned that trashing Army Court's General Court Martial was a diversion. I warned that, as I do now, that the fight is Besigye's life at the present moment. If the state has a case against Besigye, they will not free him as you're demanding. And I don't think Besigye is looking for forgiveness or surrender, rather to be taken before a competent court where he's innocent and can be proven. So the clatter of, in quotes, free Besigye is misplaced. It should be take Besigye before a competent court to get bail and let Besigye have Medicare. But I see many running all over the place like headless chickens, displaying coffin pictures. These did not serve Segirinya. Do you think that your efforts were not in vain? The pushing of the people in line, online, the pictures and everything.
He's wrong. He's wrong. He's right to some extent, but he's wrong. You see, the case we were making was bring Besigye before a competent court. Besigye refused to plead before the Army Court Martial. And the demand was, I can only plead in a competent court, right? That was the first thing. And so the pressure was on the Supreme Court to decide that a civilian cannot be tried in a military court. And by putting that pressure, the decision came. When it came, the demand now became free Besigye because he was being held without a warrant. You see, this time the demand was free him because the Army Court has been stopped from trying him. So it's no longer holding him. Even their warrant expired. So the case was free Besigye or take him to a competent court and charge him. So people were saying free Besigye is a quick way to demand, but they were not saying he shouldn't go to a competent court. I think he was misreading them. Those who were saying free Besigye were saying he's no longer held by any order. You should release him. If you want to arrest him, then arrest him later and take him to a proper court.
Right.
That was the point. So I think Tinyefuza was missing the point of the protesters. And they did a good job. That internal pressure of free Besigye, and Besigye himself putting his life on the line, put so much pressure, internal and external, on President Museveni to act lawfully, because he was now in an unlawful situation where he was being held. First when he was captured, now he's being held without any order for his arrest. He could be sitting there for years, just no real reason why he's in prison. So that was a very good action of people internally. I'm also aware that externally there was a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure because I was speaking with leaders. I was at the African Union. I met some presidents. I was being called by governments.
What do they think about the president here?
Very concerned about the lawlessness, very concerned about the disregard of the Constitution, and concerned about the bullying and the persecution of the opposition. This is a cause of concern for those countries that work with Uganda.
Is it better anywhere?
I think you don't want to go into that. There are some countries which are worse than Uganda and some which are better. Yeah.
What do you say about the people who say this was a political mastermind to build the character of Dr. Kizza Besigye for 2026?
That's ridiculous. That's not how you build somebody. I don't think so. I think that this is a sad sign of how fragmented the opposition is. They compete a lot amongst themselves and they lose the big picture of competing against the autocrat, the dictator. And I'm always telling them to desist from that. They shouldn't concentrate on fighting between themselves.
You put out a tweet on the 20th February and say, on NBS TV, Andrew Mwenda goes off the matter under discussion, which is the illegal detention of Besigye, and brings up my relationship with President Museveni. If it is really of interest to him, he should wait for my book. It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
What do you think was the intention of this?
I don't know, because he seemed to want very much to remind people that a long time ago I had a relationship with President Museveni, and yeah, I did. but what relevance was it there? It was of no relevance.
What relevance is it now in this case?
None at all. Absolutely none. I mean, President Museveni is somebody I've known since I first became aware of the world. He was in my home, visiting our home when I was maybe 3 years old. I've known him all my life. So why he features there is not relevant, really. But I think that Mwenda just thought that this was an interesting angle. So I also threw it at him and said, okay, if you are interested, just wait for my book.
So if it's not relevant, then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, I'm sure you've thought about this, then the book.
I think some people think that maybe that the relationship has an element of scandal, and maybe it makes me uneasy. They couldn't be more wrong. They are so wrong. This is a relationship that I had so many years ago, and my views about it is that it was a normal relationship with some challenges, and I left it, but it's nothing to be, it's not interesting for the political discussion. It's just interesting between us, that's all.
But you found it interesting to put it in a book?
No, I mean, in my book, it's not a significant thing in the book, but it's just one of those events that happened in my life, a small event.
So when should we expect this book?
No, I don't know. It's very far. No, that I don't know.
In your work with the UN, how concerned, I know UN really pushes a lot, of course, on the protection of human rights. How concerned are your bosses, for you especially?
My bosses are very concerned about my personal situation. They support me to fight for my husband. And at another level, our High Commissioner for Human Rights has spoken, asking for Dr. Besigye to be released and for respect for the rule of law and the Constitution. So that's where we are.
Do you dream of a political future?
Not quite.
Do you intend to run for office at some point?
I've not made up my mind on that.
So is that a no, yes?
I said, I've not made up my mind. It's not a decision I've made.
Would you run for president? You said you are interested in fighting for the people, that through your experience with your husband, you've discovered that there's a lot of injustice going on, and sometimes maybe the political gloves could address that.
I could, but it's not something I've considered. I could run. I'm capable of running. I'm capable of running a country, but I've not planned it and I've not been thinking about it.
With the case lately, has it become more clear that you need to?
No, not necessarily.
Do you feel constrained by your diplomatic title? That you cannot release as much as you can about this government? You cannot put stuff out there.
No,
do you feel
actually,
constrained by your job?
Well, yeah, constrained from taking partisan positions. I'm not going to be, unfortunately, right now I don't even belong to any political party. I used to belong to FDC, then they stole it. And another party is being formed, but it's not ready yet. I'm not in any political grouping and I don't speak for any party. So my rules don't allow me to be partisan, and so I'm not. But I can defend my husband. I can speak on human rights issues. I can speak about the state of human rights in my country. These are things I can do. So I have enough space to defend my husband and to defend others who are victims of human rights.
The NRM caucus sat with the chairman, President Museveni, on discussions to amend the UPDF Act. Some changes. What sort of changes would you like to see in the General Court Martial?
I'm not sure of the intentions of President Museveni and that caucus. I have a feeling that they are trying to reverse the ruling of the Supreme Court about military courts. And if that is the case, that would be most unfortunate. It would be illegal to reverse a decision made by a court, by an act of parliament. But I'm not sure yet. But we are watching carefully to see what it is that they want to achieve. There were clear orders of the Supreme Court which they should have moved and acted on, which they haven't, like this one of moving the files. They hadn't even done that. And now they are moving to act on some advisory things that the Supreme Court made. Seems an upside-down way of doing things. But the most important thing is that they respect the ruling of the Supreme Court, that they do not use the military court-martial for anything else but the disciplinary issues of the military. That is the whole importance of that. They can make improvements on it, put some lawyers and all of that, but they should not try again to bring civilians, opposition, to be tried by the army.
So let me tell you, according to the communication, at least from the government chief whip, the resolutions were to support the proposed amendments, and these are the amendments, that misconduct by serving military personnel be tried in the first instance by the military court-martial with the right of appeal through the civilian courts. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
The second one is that civilians who acquire specified firearms illegally be tried by the military court-martial in the first instance, but with the right of appeal through the civilian courts.
No. That is what was stopped. That's what they are trying to bring back. It shouldn't be. The civilian courts have proved themselves able to handle criminality of any kind. Now, if you get a little gun and you go and you shoot someone, then you go to the military court. I mean, you think about it. How many people are using guns in crimes? Now all the crime is going to go to the military. What capacity do they have? They don't have the independence to try such cases. That is trying to reverse what the Supreme Court has said, and that's wrong.
And the third one is that provision be made to provide for rights of appeal from decisions of court-martial to civilian courts.
He's trying to come back with what he had. He's trying to restore the court-martial to where it was. And that's undermining the decision that's already made. It should be opposed.
The civilian courts, you've been in court so many times. 2001 with Ngoma Njime, have courts improved over time? This is what, 24 years later, or have they deteriorated over time?
From what I gather, it seems that they have become worse and worse. It seems that the level of corruption has increased from what I hear, and I'm really basing myself on anecdotes. I've not looked at any reviews of the courts and whatever. But from what I hear, it seems that courts have got worse, that there's more corruption in the courts, that there is more the hand of the military deciding court decisions. I'm told that even there's a little office of the army in the High Court building, that they decide which case goes to who, that they're interfering with the judiciary. These are the things I'm hearing, but I don't have any basis like a review of what's going on there.
Right. You say that you're not shocked by what President Museveni and General Muhoozi are doing today. Are these the people you've known over time, or they have changed, especially
No,
the president?
I don't know his son, but the president, 40 years in power, definitely he's changed. He's older, he's slower, but he's more autocratic, and he's less and less connected with what's happening. So I see him as someone who's isolated because the people around him are so afraid of him. He doesn't get from them the real picture, so he's not always understanding what's going on. I also see him as paranoid. He's worried that power is slipping from his hands, and it is. At that age, he's slower, and people are making decisions that they normally might have taken to him. So he feels power slipping, and he gets very worried. He's somebody used to the total control of power. So he gets paranoid. And sadly, I see him becoming more and more ruthless because he's scared. He's scared about the end coming, about uncertainty of who will replace him. So I really see somebody who needs to make a plan to exit and exit. Otherwise, he's going to be making more and more and more mistakes.
And what is the risk to that, especially for the country?
The risks are huge.
What is at stake?
A lot is at stake. This country needs to be growing. Its economy needs to be growing. We need to be attracting investments. We need to be expanding sectors that can create jobs for young people. All this means that the country should be open for trade, for investors. They can't come in such a situation of uncertainty in where one person who is old and tired dominates every sector. People cannot be sure that their money is going to be safe here, or that they themselves will be safe here. So that's one. Two, also you see young people looking for jobs, not getting the jobs, and you see a whole generation we are losing. Because if they don't work, they get their 40s, they have not had any training, no work. You're losing a whole generation of people who would be growing the economy. So there's that huge loss in terms of the human resource. And then you get more and more corruption because people have no faith in the future. So resources are diverted by people to make a little saving for their family. They are not sure of the future. So clinics have no medicines, schools, exploitation, extortion from students. Services fail. So really we start to crumble. And it's not good. It's not good. He needs to make a clear plan of exit that will keep the country moving forward.
Thank you very much. Let's take a break. When we return, way forward on where this case goes, and also there are public statements from the CDF about the execution of Dr. Kizza Besigye. What are Winnie Byanyima's fears? All that after this break. This is The Big Talk. In convicting.
You're right that he has been charged with treason before. He was charged with treason in 2005. That was dismissed by the courts. He was charged with treason in 2016, I believe. That one the state didn't pursue. And now here we are again. I know that Kizza Besigye is innocent. And I know that the courts will clear him. that's why we've been saying, bring him to a proper court, we will go there. So let's wait and see.
As you wait, there are fears, especially with the statements from the CDF about his execution.
I think that son is really be helped and to find medical care. Those are not things that anybody would say if they are sane. Also, if you are the army commander and the court martial falls under you, you cannot decide that somebody before the court that is under you is already guilty and you've decided where you're going to hang them and you've decided the sentence and where you're going to hang them and when. It just is not done. It's totally unacceptable, but I think that he's suffering from some condition and needs to be helped to address his issues. So we've just dismissed what he has said, but the most important fact is that comes out of that is that this can't be justice. You can't be, President Museveni is your accuser, because they are saying basically wants to kill him. He's the head of the army. And then he is the court. The court martial falls under his son, and from his son it is to him. And then the prosecutor is also a soldier who reports to the army. And then the sentencing is being made by his son. I mean, that's not justice. You can't be the one who is accusing, who is judging, who is sentencing. It's just not right. I think that helps people to see clearly why the military court should never be the place where you take your opposition.
Do your fears grow by each day that goes by and the clock ticks towards Heroes Day when the CDF said he would execute your husband?
Well, that now is gone. The Supreme Court, thank you, Justice Winnie and your panel, they decided that the Army Court cannot decide that. But if that was still there, would be counting days towards the hanging. Yeah, but thank God that was stopped. But it doesn't take away the fact that he's a man with a lot of power. I worry about all those soldiers that work under him because he really does show signs of instability.
What do you think about the politics of this country? The opposition, you said you once belonged to FDC before it was stolen, like you said. What do you think about the politics of this country with new entrants like Robert Chagulanyi, other people who are still fighting for liberation, like General Mchamuntu? And do you think you, as Winnie, have a role to play?
I think it's a very positive thing that the opposition keeps growing, that we have new parties that engage especially our young people. Because let's face it, the parties that we formed, when we formed them, were much younger and we attracted young people. But now we are older and we may have support, but young people also flock to younger leaders. All that is good. We need a huge movement that is going to push for democratic change. They need to work together. They need to play roles in the whole opposition that complement each other. And I see it happening. They have come together around political detainees and around Kizza Besigye. So that's a positive development. What is not positive is the role that President Museveni plays in undermining, closing the space, making the space so dangerous for his opponents to operate. When you look at each of these parties, it's broken into 2 or even 3 parts. And that's him. It's him. He uses money to buy off some. He uses threats and intimidation, and this court we are talking about, to break off some of them. So the space for opposition is not a healthy space. They operate in a very, very dangerous, restricted, poisoned space. It's a shame, because if you want a good government with good laws, with good institutions, you want to have an opposition that is safe enough to do its job. It's not the case here.
Do you worry about Uganda post-Museveni?
I do. I worry. I worry at the uncertainty and the kind of I worry about being plunged into uncertainty after him. 40 years in power, when he's leaving and there's no clear, transparent, and inclusive process for change, you're likely to have pretenders trying to fill the space. Those pretenders are likely to come from the military. I have a fear that people in the military are watching closely. They worry for themselves. They're usually the worst victims of any abrupt change, and will want to avoid an abrupt change. I have a feeling that they must be very worried about what could happen if President Museveni were gone suddenly, the soldiers. And who knows, they might take different views about what should happen to fill the space. So it worries me that you might have even disagreements in what should be a united army about the change. So that's why all this is so important, that President Museveni engages in dialogue with his opposition and works with them towards the steps that should be taken leading to his replacement. I'm thinking, for example, there need to be an agreement about the Electoral Commission that would manage an election where he is no longer a candidate. We need to have some understandings about the army and its role in the political process. It needs to have some amendments to the Constitution to make sure that there are certain guarantees that are brought back. So I don't understand why he isn't doing this, because it's in his interest. It's an interest for his family. It's in the interest of all the people whom he has empowered to be in positions of leadership. It's important that there's a discussion about this transition, some agreements, and then he can leave.
I have 2 last questions. One is, for the sake of the freedom of your husband, have you reached out to other people who are close to President Museveni to find ways on maybe making him understand what is at stake with this case going on?
No, I haven't.
Would you be open to that?
If I found it useful, I could reach him myself. I don't need to go through another person. He has always been open to speak to me if I call him. But I haven't felt that at this point I need to, because he is saying that my husband has committed crimes. All I wanted was for him to come before a civilian court and answer those charges. Let us see what comes, because I would never want to go to him, never would go to him to say, forgive Besigye the crimes he has committed. No.
Maybe not forgive him, but to say this case and the way it's proceeding, there's a lot at stake, and the state could be the loser here?
Uh-uh.
Because you say he's the accuser.
He is the accuser, and I want that to be heard in the court. There can be a moment to discuss about the future of the country. That's another discussion. I might look for him on that, on what kind of transition will lead us safely to the next leader. But I cannot go to him to ask him to withdraw the case against Kizza Besigye. No, bring it on. Let it be heard, because he's innocent. So there's no asking for mercy. There's no asking for pull out the case. No, bring the case, let him answer it. Then you can talk about where do we take the country.
With the way he's treating your husband, you hold any personal vendetta against him now?
Against President Museveni? Not really, no. I am angry with him, and I can lash out in anger at him, but I try not to personalize these things. I try to look at what's happening to everybody. Look, my husband's case has drawn attention to tens of cases of unknown people who were abducted, thrown in jail, and are rotting in jail, or others taken, disappeared forever. So you got to see it in that context, that what's happening to Ugandans and to all of us. So that doesn't make me bitter with him, because bitter is a personal thing. No, it makes me angry that our country has gone to that point. It makes me want to fight Besigye's case, but also be fighting the cases of all these other people.
And you also talked about releasing evidence on numerous times he has tried to kill your husband.
Yes, I will come up with that at a good
when
moment. Let this case come. Because you see, there's a principle. There is a principle in court, in law, that you come to the court with clean hands, right? Clean hands. Meaning now, you don't go kidnap somebody and you bring them, and then you go to court to accuse them. Because the very act of kidnapping you've committed a crime against him. Now you want to accuse him of another crime against you. But what about the crime you've done against him? There's the principle of clean hands. So, in law, so he has that issue, that he uses criminal means against his opposition and then wants them to be found criminal, to be found to have committed crimes. It's a contradiction. Now, on the political side, I'm also able to show that this man who is so eager to punish people for wanting to kill him has also been doing the same to other people. This is now a moral test. I will put it there. Let the case start.
You've been investigating.
Hey, we've been here a long time. Remember, we first challenged him in 2001. He was taken by surprise and so traumatized. He meted out the worst violence in an election. Canary, we lost people we started with in the campaign, whom we didn't finish the campaign with. People we finished the campaign with, but were being looked for, grabbed, taken to safe houses, killed, we never saw again. So, I mean, we've been living through this, losing people, and they cannot even hide because some people were killed in their safe houses. In their hands, we picked the bodies and buried.
Right. My last question, how is Anselm? How is he coping? What questions does he have about the father and his incarceration?
It's hard on him because he's in the middle of his term, he's working, But he says he finds it hard to concentrate. He finds that the difficult texts he has to read are hard to penetrate. And yeah, it calls me a lot to find out what's going on. He's not, he's affected. He's affected.
I can imagine. So the press conference coming up by you and other parties, is that when you intend to release this information you're talking about?
Not really, not yet.
Not yet. You're waiting for the case to come up.
Yeah.
Winnie Byanyima, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you,
hosting
Canary.
and thanks for making time.
Yes, you're a good journalist.
Thank you very much. Big Talk returns on Monday, 7 to 8 p.m. My name is Kanar Mugume. Thanks to everyone who has been part of this show. And the hashtag on X is #NextBigTalk. Good morning.
How do you say your name? Canary.
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 Yes.
What's that name? Where do you get it from?
So on UBC, there was a news anchor called Charles Canary Mugisha.